Kal Kadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Batra Daf Yomi, Daf Kuf Samech Amud Aleph, 160A1. Says the Mishnah, get pashut. When we're talking about a regular get, edav mitocho. So remember, we're talking about a shtar chalak, which means a regular paper. So the edim are going to be on the inner side, obviously. If it's going to be a get mikushar, so you have a picture on the bottom there. What is a get mikushar? Which means that it's got like different like folds. That means they made a fold like an accordion. You know, like the folds. So when they made the folds, edav me'achorav, so it has to be on the outer side. Okay? Pashut, right? Sheketavo edav me'achorav. When you have a regular get that they wrote the dim on the backside, or get mekushar that they wrote on the dim on the inside, both of them are going to be pasul. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel says, mekushar sheketvu edav mitocho kasher, mivnei sheyachol lasoto pashut. He says, when you have a get mekushar that they wrote it going to be on the right inside, it's going to be kasher. Why? Because you could still make it pashut. Everything depends on the medina. You always go according to minhag medina. Fine. Next. Get pashut edav bishnaim. When you have a get pashut, there's always going to be two witnesses only. Mekushar, when it's going to be a get mekushar, you need 3 witnesses. That was the takanah chachamim that you need minimum of 3 witnesses. Pashut shekatav bo echad. If you have a get pashut that they only wrote 1 witness, or a get mekushar that they only wrote 2 witnesses, both of them are going to be pasul. That's very, very simple. Everything that we said until here is simple. Says the Gemara. How do we know these words? That there's 2 different types of shtarot, whether it's going to be a pashut or mekushar, and therefore it's going to make a differentiation to do the amount of edim. Amar Rabbi Chanina says, it says a pasuk. Sado b'kesef yiknu v'kato b'sefer chatom v'ayed v'edim. Sado b'kesef yiknu v'katu b'sefer. When it says in the pasuk that you're going to come and you're going to have sadot, fields that you're going to buy with money, v'kato b'sefer, you're going to have to write it down in a sefer. Kuf samech amubet, right? 160b. Ze pashut, that's a regular document, meaning a regular piece of paper, and you have the witnesses. Vechatom, when it says chatom, is a mekushar, is a mekushar. Ve'ed, when it says ed, is always shnaim, it's always 2 witnesses. Edim, when it says edim, it always means shlosha edim. Ha-ketzad, how could it be? Shnaim lepashut, shlosha mekushar. Meaning from this same pasuk, you learn, first of all, that there's 2 different types of documents, a regular one and mekushar, the accordion. I don't know how else you want to translate in English. And you have also an amount of witnesses, that you need minimum witnesses, 2 or 3. So says the Gemara, veipuchana. Maybe I'm going to say the exact opposite. Maybe I need 2 witnesses for a get mekushar and 3 witnesses for a get pashut. So says the Gemara, no. The fact that there's so many folds, in order to validate that it's not going to be forged or other things like that, I need more witnesses. Because when you have everything straight, so on the bottom I have 2 witnesses, Kaddish, I'm done. But when you have a folds, maybe in between, you don't know what people are writing in. So because of that, you need more witnesses. Okay, another pasuk. There's another pasuk. It says in Yirmiyahu, so it's a pasuk. I'm going to take the sefer mikneh, which is something that you buy, right? The chatum, which is going to be signed, the mitzvah, the chukim, and that which is revealed. Vayikachet sefer mikneh is a get pashut. Et chatum is get mekushar. Et galui is pashut shebe mekushar, which is basically a tofes of a get mekushar in it. Ha-mitzvah ve'achukim, these are the things which are between the pashut and mekushar. What does that mean? He says, Zeh edav shnaim v'zeh edav shloshi. There's 2 witnesses for a get pashut and 3 for a get mekushar. This one, the get pashut, the witnesses are on the inside. The get mekushar, the witnesses are going to be on the outside. So says the Gemara, maybe I'm going to say it's the exact opposite. So answers the Gemara the same svara. The fact that there's going to be so many folds, you need more witnesses in order to validate that the get is going to be a good get. Rabbi Hechal is going to now bring down a 3rd source. Remember, we're all trying to bring down sources. How do you know that, first of all, there exists a concept of get pashut and get mekushar and the differences between them? So Rabbi Hechal comes and he says it's the 3rd source. It says in a pasuk, Al pi shnayim edim or al pi shnayim edim or al pi shlosha edim yakum davar im titkayim edut b'shnayim lecha katuv b'shlosha. 1 second. If it says that you already are able to use shnayim edim, why does the Torah have to tell you shlosha edim? Tell me, minimum witnesses is 2. Why do you have to mention 3? So he says, why does it mention 2 for a get pashut and 3 for mekushar? So says the Gemara, maybe I'm going to say the opposite. And so the Gemara, the same svara, the fact that there's going to be so many folds, I need more witnesses as well. Says the Gemara, these are what these psukim are coming to teach you. Each one is teaching you something else. Meaning like this. If I have a pasuk, and the pasuk is teaching you something, I can't use the pasuk for something else because I'm already learning something from it. So he's going to evaluate every single one. So the first source, what was the first source? He says it's a tova kamashmalan. Meaning, I'm giving you good advice. If you want to come and you want to do something, what are you supposed to do? Come and write it down. So that way it's going to stand for a long time. Okay? That was the story. So the second source that you're going to take the seven mikneh, that was a story. And the last pasuk, which is al pi shnayim edim shloshah edim, is lakish shloshah shnayim. It's making a kesh, a juxtaposition. That it's the same thing. And that's a machloket between Rabbi Kiva and Rabbanan. Right? But there's a machloket. Do you say that 3 overpower 2 or 2 are the exact same thing as 3? Meaning, it was teaching you that I don't care about 3 or 2. Meaning, I don't care if you bring 5 witnesses and I bring 2. 2 and 5 are the exact same thing. Unless they make them edim zomemim, it's the same testimony. You got 5. It doesn't make a difference. Because 2 and 3 are the exact same thing. Okay? So therefore, according to that, we just disproved every single one of these proofs. Ela says the Gemara, you're right. Ela mikushar is midrabanan. This entire concept of Gem Kushar is only a midrabanan, and all the psukim were in asmachtas. Asmachta means, it doesn't mean that the pasuk is talking about that, because we just proved you that each one of the psukim were talking about something completely different. It's an asmachta. We bring a basis that it's mashma from the pasuk that it's like this. Okay? Fine. Very good. Next. Okay? So what's the reasoning why the rabbis instituted Bichal the concept of Mekushar? Atra de Kana havu. Because there was a city of Kohanim, the Kohanim, they're makpidim. Yeah, they're koasim meod. Right, that's what it says over here. But it says v'amechakim rive kohen, like the ones which are Kohanim. Right, so he comes and he says, part of the reason he says is because of the chashivutam v'yichusam. It's they think it's kilu, it's pachot, it's not their kavod, so they're gonna stand out, they're gonna scream. So what happens? Megar shenashayhu, right? They would come. Imagine he gets upset with his wife, and he's gonna come to Bedin, write a get. Now we know that once a Kohen divorces his wife, Kaddish, that's it. So what's gonna happen? We wanted Abdul Rabbana Takana, the Rabbana made a certain Takana to mellow him down. Why? To calm him down. Why? Because so it's gonna take time. So the mekushar, they have to fold and another fold and another. So what? So therefore he's going to calm down. You see what it is? Yeah, they know the Kohanim have to give them time to calm down. After they calm down, then that's it. Right? Then you could speak to them. Until then, nothing what to talk about. Yeah. So as the Gemara, Hatinach Gitin, he comes and he says, I understand Gitin. Shtaro, my God. What do you say? If this is all, if the get pashut and get mekushar is only by a get, it makes sense. But why do you have a document which is mekushar? Right? Meaning, you just explained to me why you need a get mekushar. So the get mekushar was invented for Kohanim. Invented for Kohanim. You know what that is? Invented for Kohanim. What are the document? He says, the document, he says, we don't want to differentiate between gitin and other shtarot. Fine. Next, we said in the Mishnah, where are the chatumim? Where are the din witnesses signed on the get mekushar? Between one fold and another fold. On the back of the ktav, and opposite it, right? Meaning you're going to take it backwards, and I'm going to say, 1 second, right here there's writing. So right here, it's backwards, ma'achorav, and keneged the ktav, wherever the ktav is, and that's showing where the ktav is going to be. So he says, right? He says, Ben Kesher, so he comes and he says, says, what you really think is between one Kesher and another? There was a Mekushar that came in front of Rabbi. Rabbi says, there's no Zman. Maybe it's between the folds. So Palia Vichazia, so they tore it open and they were actually able to see Zman. The meet, and you're going to tell me, En Zman Bazev and Edim Bazev mi Baile. He says, no, there's no Zman, no Edim. Meaning, if you're going to tell me it's in between the folds, and that's why they folded it up, and so there's no Edim and no Zman also. So obviously, it can't be that the Edim are signed in between the folds. So Elmaleh, he says, Misavra, do you really think Ben Kesher Migavai that it's on the inside? Ben Kesher Lekesher Miabrai, it's on the outside, and therefore on the outside of the star. So therefore, since the Chatimat Edim, you can actually see it on the outside. So therefore, he says, how could there be Edim, but there's no Zman? So he said, no, there was Zman, but it's folded, and therefore you can't see it because it's under the fold. Okay? So we're going to ask, maybe he just writes whatever he wants, and then he's just going to sign whatever he wants. So answers the Gemara, it says, write Shari v'kayam. Remember, at the end of the document, it's always written, that's what we do, by the way, nowadays also. Also Gitim, or Begitim, it's written Kedat Moshe Yisrael. But in, for example, Ketubah, Hakol Shari v'kayam. Why do we write those words? Because right after those words, you can't add anything. Because we already know that if you're going to add, it means that it's already going to be pasul. So says the Gemara, fine. So maybe he's going to write it again. If finished Sharif Kayam, he's going to add a whole bunch of lines, and then he adds again. Just add it again. Says the Gemara, no. We only write one. We don't write two. So says the Gemara, Dima, maybe he's going to come. We're going to suspect he's going to erase it, and he's going to write whatever he wants, and then he writes it once. And so the Gemara, right? We already know the shtar that has a one or two, which are going to be between one shur and another, and at the end it says tevat plonit hatluya ben right sheliya v'kayemet is going to be kasher. Why? Because it's going to be that's called a kiyum. A kiyum is basically that you come and you're mekayem. By the way, here there's a mistake or whatever it is, and it's going to be machak is going to be pasul. Meaning, if you're going to erase something, it's pasul. So if there's a mistake, don't correct it. On the bottom in this line, there's this mistake, and we're me mekayem it, and then you sign. That's the way that it goes.